Hey. Okay, so there is a new patch out for Darkest Dungeon 2 on the public beta test branch, the experimental patch branch, and I will break down everything for you. We will go through the patch notes. Patch notes are in the description if you would like to read them for yourself. There's a lot of wordiness going on because they have to track every little change, but overall, it's kind of like a lot of changes are like blanket of changes. So let's get into. First of all, I want to show you how to get into the public beta test branch if you would like. So it's called Coming in Hot. They recommend that you don't jump in and out of experimental and live. So if you do switch to the experimental branch, consider it permanent. Um, I know that some people technically have had some issues with the public beta test branch. I have not had any issues, and this will be I think the fourth that I've been on. I haven't had any issues. So due to your own discretion, what you do is I don't know how to do it on Epic Games, but on Steam you right click Darkest Dungeon 2, hit properties, betas over here, and then for you it'll say none, and then for if you opt in, you just click on Coming in Hot experimental builds. It will update the patch automatically for you. It's like a week early typically. These, at least in my experience so far, the experimental branch patches have been essentially the same, though there might be a couple small number changes in there. But when they do pull everything out on the public branch, it pretty much comes out the same way. So let's go through the patch notes again. Once you switch your branch, you must stay there until we push the update to the retail branch. For everyone, we always recommended making a backup of your save file. So, first of all, hero path conversion. So this is what I'm talking about for the overall blanket kind of change. So if you go through, it looks like every single hero has changes. No, not really. So what it is there's only one change really in this in any of the paths with anything as far as actual changes, which I will go over that. But pretty much it changes everything into the new path-ish system where it will say the description of the path and then affected skills, and it'll have everything below. So every path that they had before, Virtuoso, Vanguard, blah, 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 it is just now in that, it's just now standardized and it's now in that style. So it's a little easier to, instead of trying to understand the old UI or the old text of the old paths and then the new text also, everything is sort of standardized. So there is really not any path changes in this. It's just the way that the paths kind of are presented, if that makes sense. So let's get into, they changed a lot of the candle stuff. So let's get into late game candle usage. In this build, we've added new features that allow players to utilize candles once Altar of Hope has been fully upgraded. You spend candles both before starting an expedition and during an expedition. Okay, so these first two, inventory grants and quirk rerolling, these are based off of your banked candles. So after you unlock everything and you're able to create a bank, that's what this is based on. This new encounter choices is based on the candles that you have in your inventory. So these are ones that actually in your individual run that you have. So let's get into them. So inventory grants, after maxing out the working fields, players may now spend profile candles there to get random pulls from the item categories. The cost increases after each roll. So this is like how when you were unlocking the Altar of Hope and you didn't have like all the stagecoach items unlocked, right? So you unlocked a new stagecoach item, you get it for the next run. It's essentially that. So you can roll, for stagecoach items, it's like 16 candles. So 16 of your banked candles, and you get, explosives magazine or whatever, and you're able to get that for the next run. So it's kind of cool, a cool little way to use it, cool little way to buff your runs a little bit if you want to spend some candles and do that. So quirk rerolling, after maxing out the Altar of Hope, players may now spend profile candles at the crossroads to reroll quirks on non-memory heroes. So let me show you that. So let's say I get this, and I'm like, okay, I don't want anemic. So it starts out at 6. It gets more progressively expensive. It goes from 6 to 9 to 12 to 16. So what it does is this will reroll on this individual hero, but the cost is along every, the ramping up cost is the same on every hero. So let's say I don't want this, so I reroll 16 and then it goes to 20. So I get 2 totally new quirks. The cost, this is the same quirk she just had, but the cost stays the same. So it's a cool little thing, especially if you get something like, if you have Coward on your frontliner, right? Like, re-roll it, get rid of it. Again, this is with your banked candles. So if you haven't unlocked everything and you don't have banked candles yet, then you won't be able to use that. But either way, it's really, really good down the line once you lock everything. So new encounter choices, after maxing out the Altar of Hope, players may now spend inventory candles if available on new choices and encounters. Again, specifically inventory candles, so this is not your banked ones. These are the ones that you get throughout the game, throughout your particular run. My understanding is, like, there are some quirks that have, I think it's like Erudite or something like that, has, on like certain academic studies, you'll get an option to get debuff resist for the rest of the region. That my understanding is these are similar to this, but it's on assistance, resistance, cultists, and creature dens. So I haven't been able to test these out yet, but essentially that's what that is. It seems like that they're pretty cool buffs. They're pretty interesting buffs, and it gives you a reason to hold on to the candles just in case you need a buff for the rest of the region. So I really like that. After maxing out the Altar of Hope, new hero goals will begin to generate for them, which can reward a hero class trinket or significant item above completion. Mine, I guess I just got unlucky because all the all the hero goals are still the candle ones. But my understanding is weaved in will be the hero class trinket or signature items, which can be really really nice. And obviously you like it more than getting candles. Most hero goals that reward candles now immediately reward inventory candles upon completion, which is cool because, you know, as soon as you get you Minor Spring Water 3 times, you get the 2 candles right off the bat. And then those 2 candles right off the bat can be used for new encounter choices. So candles, people have been explaining for a while that candles are pretty useless after a while, and now this is a way to give them some usage. And honestly, I like it. I think it's pretty cool. Inferno Flame Vitrine, you gain access to the Flame Accomplishment UI to see which bosses you've defeated with each flame. This is not retroactive due to technical limitations. So as you guys know, I've done this is what it looks like. I've done a normal Grand Slam, Stygian Grand Slam, a Bastards Beacon Grand Slam, but none of these are on here, so everybody starts fresh. This is essentially what it looks like. These are the 5 acts. These are all the torches. It'll tell you, I believe this is Stygian, so if I've done Stygian Act 1, this will be filled in. It's just a little kind of like checklist if you want to, another completion thing, honestly, if you want to kind of get through everything. So it's kind of cool. Technical limitations, it's not retroactive, sucks a little bit. It's not the end of the world. Updated unchecked power token description to clarify how much burn it may apply. Highwayman, sharp shots, double tap may no longer be used in inanimate objects such as librarian books. Not a big deal. All of this hero patch conversion stuff, this is all a lot of words and it's all necessary in here, but it's pretty simplistic, the changes. Let me show you. Okay, so I moved my cam so you guys can see it better. So let's look at, all of this stuff is essentially a band-aid to sort of, instead of having the new path UI and the old path UI, it's now everything is kind of standardized, even though they haven't gone back and reworked the paths yet in most of the paths. They've at least changed the wording around so it makes a little more sense when you look at it. So let's look at Warlock, for example. So I click on Warlock. It used to just say plus 33% damage, or whatever the damage was, on ranged abilities. But now it's in the new system. So it still has the max health, which eventually they'll change over time when they rework. But at least everything is kind of standardized and changed a little bit. So if you look at Wanderer, it's 3 to 6 on Abyssal Artillery. On Warlock, it now changes to 4 to 7. So they're just little changes like that. Demon's Pull, 3 to 6 on Warlock, 2 to 5 on Demon's Pull, or on 2 to 5 on Wanderer, 3 to 6 on Warlock. That's all of what all of these changes are. It's just the changes in the UI. Now it tells you what the affected skills are, kind of like the new one, the new path system. Nothing is actually intrinsically changed. So if you look at, let's look at Hellion, for example. If we look at Hellion Berserker, now instead of saying plus 33% bleed piercing, the piercing is now on the ability itself. So you see plus 33% piercing, and it does say that changes if it bleeds and bleed out. And then now it's on the individual skills also. When they change Venom Drop, for example, on Grave Robber, they changed it from, instead of just a blanket, it used to just say plus 2 blight dealt when stealth. Instead of a blanket like that, now it's just specifically on the 2 abilities that it affects. So on Flashing Daggers and Poison Dart, it sort of puts everything together a little bit. There is the difficulty of, you have to click back and forth. Like Thrown Dagger, you're like, okay, what does Thrown Dagger do on Wanderer? Okay, blah, blah. You gotta remember, that what does it do on Venom? Okay, then there's a slight change. So that's definitely something, hopefully that they at least fix with the console release, because it is a little annoying to have to click back and forth and have to like memorize everything. It's not the best in the world, but overall, I do like the changes of changing everything into now what is the new system. I know it in some situations it's a little bit of a pain, because let's look at like Survivor, for example. I know everybody loves Survivor. Instead of just being a blanket, what was it, 50% healing or whatever it was, instead of just saying that over the path, which is a little easier to visualize, now it just says cauterizes change. So you got to do Wanderer. Okay, it heals 25%, and then Survivor. Okay, it heals 37, and you're like, does it change the usages? No, it doesn't change the. So it's I'm sure they'll fix it over time, but as of right now, it is a little bit of a pain. They did not, as you see, even with the ones that give like Virtuoso, the ones that give just straight stat boosts, the stat boosts are still there. It's just the UI is a little bit different. It's new to the everything is standardized sort of to the new path system, while they try to rework actually all the paths into the new path system where they're not just giving stat boosts, blah blah blah. So that's what all of these are. Just saying things like for the man at arms, instead of bulwark, just having an overall, it just saying, you know, stun, piercing, whatever. Now it's on the individual abilities. Like you look at Rampart, you look at Hold the Line. Now it's just like plus 10%. So it's really all it is. All this stuff is. My understanding is I don't think anything out of all of this has really changed other than the way you kind of look at it. So I'm a big dum-dum, and I actually forgot the one path change that they actually made, which is Aspirant. Binding Shadows moves you forward again. So just like how it was before they reworked, or before they worked up the occultist, like however many months ago, Binding Shadows now moves you forward again, which actually makes Aspirant a little bit better, so that you can kind of camp in the back and then shoot forward for Anamnesis when you want to. I love Aspirant. I don't know how much the average player uses it, but I actually think this is a nice little change to put back in the game. Black Phillip buffs. kind of random, but I'm down with it. He's got 2 turns, so you could dot him easily, but now he's got 29, now he's not as much. So items, these are all pretty much all trinkets. Trinket changes, I do like these. I will go through these. Added chance for most implication matches to drop iron branded wheels and steel plating stagecoach items. That is from our wonderful friend twitch.tv/Vexia. That is his idea. Wow. That's actually kind of cool that they got in there. Combat and item and tooltips now display gold or blue coloring for target strings, depending if it targets heroes or enemies. Anything that is easier for new players to see is always cool. Shrine map no longer appears once all shrines of reflection have been completed. It's -1 scouting gear, technically. Technically a small nerf, although obviously absolutely disgusting. Almanacs added the road gear tag, and each almanac gets +2 speed and +10% stress resist for their respective regions. So I'm going to tell you, your first thought might be, I wish the almanacs were scouting. I'm going to tell you why adding the road gear, I actually like it a lot. First of all, the road gear items are dog shit, frankly. The stagecoach items, they're technically negative. Like if you get the iron branded wheels, it gives you +2 wheels, and it adds a wheel in. So it's +2 wheels, and it adds a wheel in. 2 - 1 is 1. So you still technically have to spend more baubles to keep your wheels to 100% so you can get the travel heal. So it can be argued that actually these two are technically negatives. They're not. But, like, technically, like, I have to spend more baubles to get the buffs that I already have. So those are road gear, and those are shit. Added these are road gear. I really like this because Mucilaginous Slime gives +5% debuff resist per road gear item. Okay, there are not a lot of ways to get debuff resist in this game. So I actually like that this is on the road gear tag now, because if you were running the mucilaginous slime before to try to get the debuff resist, you were like pretty much trolling, because you're committing to a hope, like, you know, at least a slot or two, if not all 4 slots, to road gear that are not good at all, as opposed to something like T-Service that gives you +6% positive relationship, something that's like really, really good, or extra travel heal, something that's really, really good, and instead you're doing iron banded wheels or whatever. So you can now, it's one more way that you can get extra debuff resist if you decide to run the slime, depending on the act or whatever that you're running, or the heroes, or, you know, if you're running the leper or something like that, to be able to give them debuff resist. So I actually really like this. I know people are probably going to say that it makes more sense for it to be scouting. I don't care. I love that this is road gear, and I think this is big brain that they make it road gear. Shambler Spawn adds more cultist encounters. That's cool since it scouts them all anyways. Rat Skull with the Highwayman, so increase the stress resist debuff from -10% to -20%. That's cool, because there's a very, very small handful of ways to debuff stun resistance, and one of them is on Physician and one of them is on Bulwark, which are the 2 paths that in theory down the road are going to get reworked so that they no longer have those base in the path. So stun resist, being able to get lower stun resist is good in general, and I assume they'll add more into the game. Decreased healing receive penalty from -90% to -60%, so overall buff. Profane Scroll is Vestals. Reduce turn in while in rank 3 and 4 stress damage from +2 to +1, and chance from 100% to 33%. Profane Scroll is, if you're running Chaplain or if you're running Frontline Vestal at all, it is like the holy grail trinket that you're trying to get. But if you ever get shuffled into the 3 or 4 position, you are getting wrecked by stress because it's kind of hard to move her back because she only moves one at a time. So that they changed this now to 33%. That's good with really no downside because you're not running any melee abilities in the back line. So Strong Shackles reworked. Strong Shackles was arguably the worst trinket in the game. Now it has some use. Reworked to apply on hit mobilize and gain on hit mobilize. Instead of it being a chance of 1 in 3 and then it, procs in a situation where you don't need it. Now it's actually good. Staggering Striker. And also the Strong Shackles buffs go along with these next 2 buffs. Staggering Striker from the Sluice. If target has a mobilize, plus 50% damage. You find some way to use that. You're fine. It's, it's not like it's something you're going to, oh my god, I got Staggering Strike, but it's going to be nice to get. And again, another Sluice trinket. Added trinket has immobilized plus 10% crit. Sneakers Standard, which, boy, if Strong Shackles wasn't the worst trinket in the game, this one probably was. But now, I think it's really interesting. It changes from all hero stealth tokens, 1 in chance, to combat start all allies behind a stealth token. So that I like that. You have something like, you got a big tanky boy like the Man-at-Arms in the front or whatever. Give it to him, and everybody behind him starts stealth, so that at least for the first round, some of the enemies are only hitting your tank, which is so nice. And Unwavering Standard is the same thing, but now it's block, so that's cool. Grim Mask changed to rework to gain on crit if ally less than flame, -1 stress. Each ally on turn end, if flame less than 40, +1 stress, and if flame less than 40, plus 40% stress. So it's interesting. Another Sluice trinket to, another Sluice style trinket, I guess I should say, to kind of get damage if less than 40. So Heart-Shaped Padlock. Heart-Shaped Padlock, another one that should have felt better than it was. Didn't feel super great, but now it's changed to random ally when healed. Add 1 positive token, so that's pretty cool. Blood Smear Calculations, my toxic relationship. I've lost like legitimately 6 or 7 runs to Blood Smear Calculations killing my runs. So this is probably a better change. Removed 1 damage on turn start and turn end. Changed from turn end conversion to now convert crit to dodge plus and strength to dodge plus. So that's actually pretty cool. It's one of those where if you're able to get crits consistently and strength consistently, if you're not using them, at least it turns into something that you can use. So this is actually pretty good for somebody who's squishy, who can get crit and strength block plus. I don't know, admittedly, if it goes backwards. So the old Blood Smear Calculations would turn if you had a crit token left over, it turned into a dodge, and then if you still had that dodge on the beginning of your next turn, it'd switch it back to crit. I don't know if it still does that or not. And instead of doing damage at the beginning of the turn and the end of the turn, it now just bleeds 1 at the end of the turn, which is, I assume, you can probably be resisted also. So overall, a much less risky trinket. Snappy Swig, speed threshold for gaining crit token increased from 8 to 10. That was necessary. So it means you can no longer, like Virtuoso used to just get this bank used to get this base, or at least very close to base, and now you're gonna have to add either another trinket alongside it that gives some speed, or an item or whatever or combat items that are able to get to this. So this is overall, Snappy Swig was too good. This is good. Anatomical Map, which I already honestly like as it is, and then they buffed it. So chance to apply negative token or positive token changed from 90% for to apply a positive or a negative, 90% to apply a negative, to 10% apply a positive. Now it's 95 and 5. So it's even better. I mean, it cuts the chance of giving them like a positive token is cut in half. So that's actually pretty crazy. I love Anatomical Map overall. Although you don't get it super often. Hastening History changed to random ally gets a speed token, has a chance to get a speed token to turn end. Ally ahead gets a speed token. So kind of like how a Wavering Standard and Sneaker Standard are now going to be, you're going to put it on your frontliner. You're now going to put Hastening History on your backliner and hope that everybody, or at least somebody in front of you, is able to get a speed token. I love that. Insulting Insignia is now another backliner where turn end ally ahead gives a block token. That can be really nice. Wax Inoculant now gets, the whole party gets it, which is cool. And then it's 8 to 12, so it's going to be really nice heading into the Sluice or heading into the feeder, probably. Now you have an actual reason to buy this. Caked Palette now has a 100% chance to copy a positive token alongside with a 5% chance to copy all negative tokens. That's, instead of making it a chance, now it's like, now it's guaranteed to copy the positive token. So that's really, really nice. This works on AoE also, so something like Bellow, in theory you're copying, or like Magrain, you're copying a lot of positive tokens. Really, really good. Pouch of Lie adds a little bit better, which is nice. Add us -1 stress for each corpse cleared with this item. So instead of just being a corpse clear item, where if you had, you know, Purge or you had Demon's Pull or something that does it anyways, you don't really need it. But now it's a good addition. It's a way to get rid of stress also. And then Shred of Decency, instead of just getting rid of one worship token, gets rid of all worship tokens. I like this because Shred of Decency is relatively rare. You don't see it a ton, so now when you get it, now you're actually excited to get it, especially versus the Exaltations of the world, the Exemplars of the world, that kind of stuff. Really, really nice. Some D-pad changes. You guys can read that through that yourself. How to play on gamepad. Extra descriptions, etc., stuff like this. So overall, I really like the patch. I think they did a good job of standardizing like old path and new path. At least like the wordings in together, so it's a little less confusing because you're trying to figure out what's new and what's old, blah blah blah. The path reworks will continue to come, I'm sure. I have loved pretty much every trinket change that they've made through the last 2 or 3 patches. They make a lot of these like sneaker standard that are not super great, or unwavering standard that's like kind of boring. Strong shackles that's not good. They've added just little things to make it a lot more interesting. And overall, I just love that. So overall, good patch. If you guys ever have any questions about this patch or you want to see me play it, twitch.tv/MarinerHawk. I stream every day. Subscribe to my YouTube if you would like, because I appreciate it. Either way, I appreciate you guys watching the video. Comment on the video if you guys have any questions, anything like that. I will answer it to the best of my ability. And I hope you have a nice rest of the day.